How's it going? Travis Whitmire here, and thanks for joining us again on yet one more guitar lesson. And this is beginning guitar phase one. And in this section, our getting started, we've broken it down into tuning guitars, parts of guitars, musical alphabet, what are these lines and dots. We've talked about diagrams and tablature and all kinds of great stuff. But one thing I thought was very important for everybody is plugging in for the first time, plugging into your amplifier, not blowing the thing up, all right? So if no one's told you what to do, or if you don't know how to deal with your amplifier, I'm gonna go through, starting from the very beginning, and I'm gonna be using a really small, simple, basic amp, which is gonna be common for most people starting out on guitar, so there's no reason to bring out a big, huge Marshall stack or go across the stage with 25 amplifiers. If you don't know how to turn it on, you probably have a small little amplifier. And the good news is this is pretty much standard for any amplifier you're going to have, or any sort of amplification unit for electrifying your instrument. So with that being said, let's jump right in and let's plug in for the first time. So here it is, the little orange power packed machine. Great little starter amp, practice amp, very basic, but it's got everything you need to give yourself some sound. So let's go through the process and start with the very first thing. The first step is make sure that when plugging in your amp for the first time, make sure that your amp is turned off, and make sure that all of the settings are turned to 0, all the way down, as you see here. Next, take and plug your power cord into your amplifier and push it all the way in. Make sure it's nice and snug. After that, plug it into the power strip or the wall, whichever method you are using to plug in your amplifier. And make sure, as I said, the power is off. Okay, so now that you're plugged into a power source, ideally a power strip with some sort of power conditioner or surge protector, you can plug your instrument into your guitar. Now that your guitar, sorry. Next, plug your instrument cable into your guitar. Next, with your power still off and with your guitar plugged into the instrument cable, plug your cable into the input jack of the amplifier. Make sure it's pushed all the way in, give it a little feel. I like to tighten up the nut with my hand, make sure everything is nice and snug before I do anything. So now that my guitar is plugged in with the instrument cable to my guitar input jack and is plugged into the amplifier input, we're ready to go to the next step. We're going to turn the volume knob on a guitar. We're going to turn the volume knob on the guitar all the way up, like this. We're then going to take, and I like to, just for a starting tone, put all my tones, knobs on number 7 on the clock here. So 7 across. So you see on this amp we have a low, mid, high, volume, overdrive, and gain. So I'll start off by 0 all the way up to 10, unless you're spinal tap and you have 11. You're going to go up and put them all on 7. So my low, mid, and high on 7. So that's just a good starting tone for most amplifiers. From there you could tweak it to your liking. So now with my low, mid, and high set where I want them, I'm ready to go to the next step. Now some of your amplifiers might have some built-in effects like reverb or whatever. So make sure those are turned all the way to 0 and the volume's all the way off before turning on your amplifier. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the amplifier. Power it up. See my light come on here. So now that my light's on, I have my low, mid, and high set at 7. I have my volume down, my overdrive down, my gain down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my overdrive on 2. I'm going to take my gain, put it on 2, and then I'm going to bring my volume up to 2. I'm gonna set my overdrive and my gain at about 2, and then I'm gonna slowly bring my volume up to 2. My guitar's already turned up, so as I bring this up, I'll be able to hear some sound. Okay, so that's great. I have some sound. Now, if you have any effects, you could turn those on slowly. And again, I like to keep things dry and bring the wetness up slowly. So if that might be an actual wetness control. And again, this amp, very basic, and we have other lessons where we talk about effects chains, effects processors, all of that gear. So again, this is for just getting started with a very basic amplifier right here. You see that we only have a few knobs, and across the board I have 7 and 2. So that's a great place to start without blowing anything up. Remember, the most important thing is that order. So make sure that your amplifier is off and you're turned all the way down on everything. Plug your guitar cable in first, and then slowly bring up your volume along with overdrive or gain if you have those. And at that point, you can just adjust for liking. So you turn your gain all the way up, you're going to get more saturation, and again, you turn your overdrive up, you can start to hear that little, you can start to hear the overdrive. So for a clean sound, less overdrive, less gain. Bring your gain up. It's going to give you more volume without too much grip, but you start bringing the overdrive with the gain up, and you start getting more of a distorted sound. So especially with a solid-state amplifier like this. If you like, you can use your headphone, and that's going to require a 1/4-inch TRS jack on the end of your headphones if it doesn't have one already. And at that point, again, this is really important. Make sure the amp is off and the volume's off, and then turn your amp on and slowly bring up the volume with your headphones on. You don't want to blow off your ears. So again, that's why this going through this process in this order is important. So with that, when you're done, go through a reverse process. You can turn your volume down, and at that point, you can keep your tones where you like them. You don't need to mess with that. But I pretty much always turn my volume down, even if I keep my gain and my overdrive where I might have them. My volume's going to go down. My amp is going to go off. At that point, especially if you have a tube amp, you might have to wait for that amp to power down. But you unplug too soon, you're going to hear a pop. So give it a good 10, 15 seconds. And then you can take and unplug your guitar and your amp cable and put it all away. Thanks so much for checking it out, and hope you enjoyed the using the amplifier without blowing up your neighborhood lesson. All right, I'm back, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson in how to turn on your amplifier without blowing it up and without hurting yourself, starting a fire, any of that. So remember, most important thing, power it off, everything all the way down 0, guitar down, amp down, 0, 0, 0, power off, plug in your cords of your guitar, and have everything all the way on 0. And then what I do is with my guitar plugged in to my amp and my guitar, with all of the tones then rolled up to 7, I'll slowly bring up my volume, again with my gain, if I have gain or overdrive already set on a really low threshold, say 2 to 3. You can always adjust that later, but that's going to really push your amp into a higher volume. So keep those down low. Slowly bring up your volume, whether your guitar is all the way up or you keep that down and turn your amp on 1 or 2, but you want to be able to have some control of your volume as you're slowly turning it up. So either, again, always keep your amp on lower and turn your guitar up, or have your guitar turned all the way up and bring your amp up slowly. And then when you're unplugging, just keep in mind it's sort of a reverse process. You're going to want to turn off your amplifier first before you do anything else. And then I always turn my volume all the way down on my amp, just so I'm starting that way. And after about 10 seconds, you know you're good. You can unplug your cables, your instrument cables and whatnot, and put everything away, and you're good to go. So, as always, see you later, alligator and a wild crocodile. And crazy chord. It's not that crazy. Yeah, it's not on me, so you have to get me. Just, I mean, here I am. Like, oh, wow. Did I move the chair that much? Is that where it was before, like that? Okay, this is me giving my volume roll on as I did with the amplifier when I was rolling on my amp. So rolling on the sound now. There's my sample for the sound. One more time. Ready? Oh, honey, let me finish this recording. What? Wait for it to go out. I'm recording this. You said it's recording still, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not right.
I have my recording going on my thing. Should I stop it, or are you gonna? I'm only gonna talk for like 5 seconds.
Okay.
So, hope you enjoyed the learning to turn on your amplifier without blowing up your house and destroying your amplifier. So again, keep in mind most important things: power it off, plug in first with your guitar down, amp down, everything all the way down, everything all the way off. Plug in your guitar, plug in your amplifier power, plug in your cord to your amplifier with everything off, roll up your tone, and then whether you roll up your guitar first or roll up your amp to 10 with your guitar already then swelling on, either way, you want to start on 0 and slowly bring up the sound after you turn on your amplifier so we don't blow anything up, okay? So keep that in mind, and here's another important tip. Make sure your amplifier is off and give it a few seconds, 8 to 10 seconds before you unplug anything. Power off, unplug. Power off, plug in,